Hey everyone, welcome to the E2 Effective Elders podcast. Visit us at e2elders.org and please share this good word with others.
Hi, ladies. Welcome this afternoon. We're glad you've joined us for our May edition of the e2Women podcast. I'm here with my friends, Christina Bledsoe and Chel Garrison. Good afternoon, ladies.
Hi there.
Hey. It's good to have you with us. I'm excited about our topic this month, home, because each of us came from one. Each of us have raised kids. Each of us are currently living in a home. Whether it's with kids or without kids, whatever stage of life we're in. So we're glad those of you out there have joined us for the afternoon. Chel joins us from Illinois, from Danville, Illinois. And of course, Christina is here in Indianapolis, my colleague at the E2 office. So we're just going to have a chat, ladies. And Christina, Chel, I think, why don't we start? Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, your husband.
Sure. Yep. So my name is Chel Garrison. That is short for Michelle. Everybody always tries to figure out, is it Chelsea? Is it Chel? What is it? But it's just the middle of Michelle. And that really actually became my name simply because that's what my husband always calls me. And he is a teaching pastor. And so we used to be in student ministry. And so he would tell stories about me. We joke that pastors' families are the #1 sermon illustration that pastors use. And so he just started calling me that. And then our students started calling me that. And we've been at Second Church here in Danville for 20 years coming in July. And so now those students are adults who have kids, and it just generationally just became Chel. So that's how my name landed as it is. We have 3 kids. I guess they're not really kids, but they're adults and they're mine. So we have twin girls who are 21 and they are just finishing their junior year at Johnson University. And then our son is 19 and he just finished his freshman year at Johnson. So we did not pressure Johnson, but we're thrilled that they're there. I'm now the only member of our family to not attend Johnson, so we kind of joke that I should sign up and take a class just so I could be a Johnson Royal too. But we just absolutely love the season of life that we're in and watching them flourish and what God has for them. And so that's kind of who our and we have 2 golden retrievers. So that's our family.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about Kyle. You mentioned he's in ministry, but give us a little bit more about what he does.
Yeah, so Kylie is a teaching pastor. We started in student ministry back in when we moved here in 2003. And then in about 2010, 2011, we started to have conversations where we just felt like God was really calling us out of student ministry and to have an impact on young families and on recognizing that strong marriages and strong families lead to our kids having more successful lives, becoming stronger, just whole units spiritually. And so the elders at Second were really beautiful and amazing to us that they didn't want us to move on from ministry at Second. And so we all began to pray. And over the course of time, what actually happened is we outgrew our main sanctuary at our church. And we actually started 2 services. And so we have 5 services on a Sunday morning, 3 in one venue and 2 in the other. And Kylie transitioned in 2014 to be the teaching pastor in that venue with a focus on young families. And we're just enjoying the season of thriving with a lot of people, actually, like I mentioned before, who used to be our students, who are now parents and are able to just do life and ministry with them on a continued basis, in addition to all these new families that are coming to our church.
That's really exciting, not only for the church as a whole, but for you as a couple. So great things taking place there. Well, I know that recently you had a life change, career-wise. So tell us a little bit about that, how it came about, how it started, what?
Yeah, so I've been in corporate America since 2018, and really kind of in the middle of 2022, we started to just really wrestle with what it was to be on 2 separate pages. And God was calling me to do some things for the kingdom that I couldn't do while trying to manage full-time work plus full-time family. And one of the jokes was, well, I would always say, well, maybe I'll do that in 2022 because that's when my son graduated. And so we were moving into an empty nest season and all of that. But really, we started to just see that God was moving to ask us to take a step of faith, to walk away. You know, I mentioned earlier that we do have 3 kids in college. So that means college tuition times 3. And probably not the most logical time on planet Earth to decide to leave a really good job. And God just continued to confirm over and over to us that it was time to take that step. And so in April of 2023, I did, with not any other cohesive plan, just a few things in the making, have decided to step out and trust God for what's next for our family in this season.
So how did you prepare for that? I mean, you said you prayed, lots and lots of prayer.
Yeah.
I think I heard you say you involved not only Kyle, but perhaps other people, but were there other things you did in preparation?
You know, we looked at what we could get rid of in our lives, honestly. You know, there's always the conversation about what does it mean to financially take that step. And I would say we have been on a journey to become financially free anyways. And so just being able to free up all of those things made it easier for us to take the jump, you know. But what honestly it boiled down to for us in preparing was we just kept getting confirmation after confirmation that it was the right decision and the right time. And coupled with that, just some really big conviction from the Holy Spirit that if I daily tell other people to trust him to provide, why would we choose to not trust that he would provide for our family and all the needs that we have if he's asking us to do something? And so the counsel of many was good. And then also just Kylie and I have always had a prayer, and that prayer is just that God would give us peace and a like mind. I think you can live without. I remember my mentor said this to me when we were early married and we thought they were the craziest people ever, but they said you can live without joy, and you can actually live without happiness, but you can't live without peace. And so really a lot of the major decisions we've made throughout our entire lifetime of being married for 24 years has come down to God, give us peace and give us a like mind in the direction that you want us to go. Because if we have those two things, we know that we can function no matter what comes our way.
Yeah. Well, Christina, I know that you last month spoke on a major life change similar to what Chel and Kyle have done. Any question you have for her? Any similarities or comments?
Yeah, there's similarities, but I think that, you know, what couple of the things that I wrote down that I heard you saying, Chel, was, you know, I loved your comment about you prayed, you had the elders praying for, you didn't know what you were supposed to be doing, but you asked them to pray with you. And I think that just gives me goosebumps to know that you were still full-time employed. I happen to know, you know, a little bit about your career, and, you know, it was a grueling job that you had. You were traveling a lot. You were in, I believe, manufacturing. So it was not a cushy, you know, sitting in the Delta Sky Lounge travel job. So you really, you walked away from not just a job, but a career that was, you know, brought a lot of financial stability to your home. So I can relate to that. You know, I think you certainly, financial freedom, I think once you can get that financial freedom in your life, it opens doors. Not being in debt, getting rid of any fluff that you can get rid of to just free up those finances so that you can do what God wants you to do. And I can relate to that. And I was fortunate enough to be able to have the financial freedom to step away from the corporate job as well. And then just kind of say, hey, what am I supposed to be doing? I don't think mine went quite as smoothly as yours. Mine was a bit more of a nervous breakdown, but I think that there's a lot of wisdom in how you proceeded, and you probably had much more peace about your decision than I did, because mine was a little more, I like to blow things up first.
Well, I think that
Yeah.
like context is everything.
Yeah.
In December of 2014, the company that I had been working for 8 years, that I absolutely loved working for, I ran my own business as an independent consultant through them. And the day after Christmas, they announced that they were closing, and I was about to lose a massive, because we were independent consultants, it was here today, gone tomorrow. There weren't severance packages, there wasn't unemployment, there wasn't any of that. And I think that experience right there, honestly prepared me for this. And I wouldn't have told you that 8 years ago. But in that time, I, in full disclosure here, came to understand exactly how much my identity was wrapped in the job that I had. That my identity was wrapped in what I was doing, and that I was successful at it, and that I was building this team. And to be able to have walked through that season where God was like, you know what? Everything that you hold in the palm of your hands could be gone tomorrow. And outside of his word and souls, nothing else is guaranteed to me for life. And so I think that really matured us in shifting to understand anything that we walk into, whether it's job success, or maybe it's a financial windfall, or anything like that. We're not ever promised any of that in scripture. And so to be able to hold lightly to those things and say, thank you, God, that you've brought this into my life in this season, but then to understand seasons are going to change and things are going to be different. And I'm not promised this tomorrow. I think it actually really helped me be able to detach from day one in corporate America, what I had, to be able to say, okay, if God calls me to walk away from this, I've lost big way before, and he's always provided. I know the character of God is that he will provide for us again.
Yeah. Well, so when all of this was taking place and you were conferring with all of your, the folks that you did, and I know your kids are grown, they're away from home for the most part, but how were they involved in this? And how did they think you totally lost your mind, or they were there? Mom, we understand. Mom and Dad, we know you've done the right thing.
Actually, all three of my kids, we got them all on a FaceTime together, because, obviously they're in Knoxville and we're here in Illinois. And when we got ready to tell them the news, the first conversation had to start with, we promise nothing's wrong. Like, when we call a family Zoom, we are people who do family meetings, not very often, but we do call family meetings. And so they often know that we're getting ready to tell them something of significance if we want to tell them all at the same time. But honestly, all three of them were just like, thank God, it's about time. Wow. Yeah. And it was just a confirmation of, thank you for everything that you have sacrificed to help us get to where we are. And now one of them, I don't even remember which one it is. I'm sure they'll comment on this podcast and tell me which one of them said it. But one of them said, I'm so thankful that you've helped me chase my dreams to the point that now you can stop and chase what God has for you. And that was just like a huge, and they have been nothing but supportive for us, even in, some of the sacrifices that we've chosen to make, or some of the ways that we may, maybe financially a little bit tighter for us. They're all game in helping and recognizing, God calls each one of us. And I'm thankful for that we've been able to champion God's call in their life and theirs for so long. And now as adults, they're returning that favor to their dad and I.
That's a huge compliment as a parent, to have your kids see that the sacrifices that you made, and then to want to say, we can sacrifice a little too if needed for you to follow your dream. That's really exciting. And I believe all of your children are going, or look like they're going into ministry fields as well. Is that correct?
So our daughter, one of our daughters is going to be in student ministry. Our other daughter is in education, which if someone doesn't think that that's a ministry, they obviously have not been around a lot of teachers.
Sure.
And then our son, his goal is sports and fitness leadership right now, but he's not sure what that looks like for him as he walks that out, whether that's working in physical therapy or chiropractic care or things like that. But one of the interesting conversations that we've had with him, even as he's grown, is just to understand that, man, God needs strong elders in churches. And so if you don't feel God's call into full-time occupational ministry, don't do it just because that's where some of your family's gone.
Sure.
We want you to do that, but he really sees that he has the ability to lead well as a businessman in the church. And
Sure.
so we're super excited to watch all of them kind of figure out those paths.
Right.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear that. That goes into full-time. Some way, shape, or form, even as a lay leader within the church. And boy, there are not enough of those even. So that's great. Well, so as you think about your kids and as they were preparing, and you were preparing for their departure from home, what did you learn about yourself and about your family as those changes took place?
Yeah, I think you learn a lot about yourself as a mom. Like the minute you become a parent, you discover exactly all the rough edges that God still needs to work off of your life. And I think in every season that continues to happen. I think for me though, early on, and again, you ask like, what would be successful? I was surrounded, I intentionally chose to befriend some people who I saw like killing it as parents, whose kids were older than mine. And those mentors, Titus 2 talks a lot about that, but those mentors in our life, they were game changers for me, because on the moments when I wasn't feeling like I was getting it right, or I had no idea what to do, I was able to look to them and say, what was successful for you? What did you do that now you have teenage kids who love to be around you? What do you do now? And I was able to watch a lot of those people live out life in front of me, so that I could learn what to do and what not to do. I also think that, 20 years of working with high school students made that season of my life a little bit better, because I think that we saw in the trenches what it was like in real time, both successes and failures, with parents to decide some things that we wanted to do differently for our family. I would say that because it's graduation time, I know like this is May when we're talking about this. And so one thing that I want to say to moms, especially dads seem to have a bit easier time with this whole graduation thing than moms do. But what I would say, having now done it twice, it is okay to simultaneously grieve and simultaneously celebrate. Like those two emotions are not exclusive of each other. And it is okay for you to be mourning a season that's ending while looking forward to a season that's coming. I don't even know where I heard it or learned it, but I remember when my son, so my girls graduated during COVID. They graduated in 2020 in the height at the very beginning. So that was a whole different beast of launch. But when my son graduated in 2022, I just remember his entire senior year, every time we got ready to go one of those lasts, we make a big deal about all the lasts, I just kept saying, God, help me to be so excited for him that I forget to be sad for me, because his life is launching in all of these really cool things. And we as parents, we were created to raise kids, to know God, to launch them into the world, to go and live. And so what this is the natural progression. So therefore I shouldn't fear that it's coming. And I really just wanted to like celebrate that. And I'm really thankful God helped me answer that prayer. We cried. I mean, like I cried at senior night. I got teary eyed at graduation when he walked across the stage. And when we left him at college, we have, it was super emotional for our family to all say goodbye, but it wasn't like this heart wrenching, I don't have a life anymore now that my children are grown.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a testament to your strong marriage as well, which is the basis of a strong family. So I've seen you and Kylie together, and I have to say it's really sweet. You guys have you have an obvious connection to one another. When I have had conversations with you, and that is such an honor for your children to have watched that for all those years, you know, and the families that you have interacted with at church as well, that you guys are obviously still best friends. And that's just really, it's a really sweet thing to see.
Thank you. I think he always says that in premarital counseling, he says you have to work at your marriage for your marriage to work. And I think that we forget that sometimes in the throes of parenthood, where our kids are pulling us 50 different directions and the to-do list never ends and you're exhausted and finances might be tight and all those things. You have to continue to invest. And we told our kids early on, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to move. And Dad and I made vows to each other. And so if you see us make a priority of each other in the middle of all of this, that's because God gave you us. You're a gift. You're a gift from God. But before God, I made a vow to your dad. And at the end of the day, I'm going to still be married to your dad. And I want to make sure that that next season of life is one that we thrive in as well.
Well, that is a gift that you've given them. So
thank you. Thanks.
So,
what does home look like now? Yeah. So there's a lot less laundry. And I don't grocery shop as often. But you know, it's quiet, but it's also really full. Even since I stopped working in full time for somebody else in April, we were laughing the other day. I'm like, I don't know why I had time to work before. I think that God just continues to open the doors. And what's cool, I believe that life is seasons. You know, there's seasons where you're doing something and there's a season where you're doing something else. And in this season of an empty nest, what it's allowed us is time, you know, time to invest in other people, time to invest in other couples, time to invest in our friendships, and even just in each other. My mom is retired and lives here in town. And so even being able to take care of things for her that 6 months ago, I didn't have the time to be able to take care of, to invest in church, to just randomly show up last week. We had a really good friend who got injured and needed to go get stitches, and they have a 13-month-old. And so the hospital is like 2 miles. And so when she texted me that she was there, I said, I'm on my way to pick up your son. There's no way I could have done that before. And so our home looks, it's quieter, and sometimes that's weird. But it's just as full. And we love it when they come home, you know, and they might only be here for 2 weeks, or they might be here for 10, but it's a different season. And so it feels good, and they're thriving. And I think that's the other thing, you know, when you see 3 kids thriving, it's really hard to be like, oh, I wish you were here, when you know they're exactly in the center of God's will, doing what God has for them in this season.
Yep. Well, you have ministered alongside Kyle for a long time. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
Yeah. So when we were in student ministry, I graduated with a degree in student ministry as well, and felt just called to minister to students. And so we were side by side in that whole thing. And we had a thriving season. It's been different since he transitioned to the next gen. But for us, a lot of it's about families. A lot of it's about marriages. You know, we get to do a lot of premarital counseling together, and we just love that because we get to tell people things that we wish we would have known early on that nobody took the time to tell us, you know, hurdles that every marriage is going to face about time and pressure and expectations. And just really being able to do those things together is pretty amazing. And I don't even know how to explain a typical week to you. It's pretty much whatever comes our way, it happens, you know. I mean, it could be we're at weddings one day and we're at funerals the next, and, you know, we're in counseling with somebody the next. So, I mean, it's just a myriad of things. And I'm just blessed that I have the chance to be able to do that with him.
So it's all about relationship.
Yeah. I would say that I think somewhere along the line, we had a conversation about how like ministries changed, you know, since we started doing ministry. And I would tell you, while the methods have changed, I don't know that ministry itself has. Early on, again, we heard loud and clear from mentors in our life that the way they said it is what you win them with is what you keep them with. And so we can't compete with the world. We're not going to have more glitz, more glamour. We're not going to have any of those things. Like, we can't compete with what the world is able to offer, but what we can do is give them the very thing that their soul is looking for, which is Jesus and authentic relationships. And we focus on understanding that we need to build relationships that can bear the weight of truth, and know that people know that we are for them, and that we're for what God wants to do in them and through them, so that in the moments, if we have to challenge, or if there needs to be accountability, or they hit a really hard point, they know that they can trust the relationship that we're building with them enough to walk through that season with them.
Perfect.
I have a feeling you would be really good at calling somebody out in truth and love. I hope it's never me, but I just think that what I know of you, I could see you calling somebody out and still walking away from that discussion, hugging and planning your next meeting. I think that's a gift that you have. I can see you setting somebody straight. Can't you, Debbie?
Absolutely.
I think you have it in you to do that in truth and love. I do. No, it's a gift.
Thank you. I would say, so it's funny. We Kylie and I talk about that a lot. He is an Enneagram 9, so he's love. And I'm an Enneagram 8, so I'm truth. And between the two of us, like, we have both learned from the other person how I've learned how to be more gracious and kind and soft with your heart. And I don't always get that. I'm going to be honest, I don't always get that right.
Yeah.
But he has also learned when there's time to say, the most loving thing that I can do right now is talk to you in truth, Yeah. And I think that is something that we all need, like, as Christ followers, right? Like, I want to love you enough that you know that if I ever were to look at you and say, hey, gosh, I see this thing in your life, that it's coming from a place of what I sincerely want for you is to thrive. What I want for you is to be everything that God created you to be. And I don't want I don't want the enemy to stand in the way of what God's calling you to do with your life.
Yeah.
I can see you doing that and doing it very well. So.
Yeah, that's kind.
Yeah.
Hopefully I continue to grow in that grace.
You will.
To do that right. Yep.
Wrap this up. Questions. What advice, if any,
I think if I heard the question right, because it broke up, what advice would I have for parents who what?
And their children.
Who are getting ready to have an empty nest and launch their children. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I was trying to, it broke up. And I was like, I'm reading
broke up
lips.
just a little.
I'm not sure.
That's all right. Okay. I think that, so Hannah in the Old Testament did that really well. I mean, if there was someone who, after years of begging God for a child, handled it gracefully and saying, okay, he's yours, and I'm going to give him back to you. And, most of us don't have to give our kids back when they're 5. But I think that pattern of understanding as a mom, even from the moment that I hold them in the palm of my hand, I've simply been given a gift and a responsibility to raise those children to fear and know the Lord. And to know that my entire existence for 18 years should be about setting the stage to let them fly. There's something really super cheesy that always comes up this time of year. It's like, give them enough roots to know where home is and enough strength in their wings to fly. And I would really say that that's where I would ask you to be right now. Be fully present. Do whatever you can to be present at the last things as they're coming, but also walk in the knowledge that this isn't about you. Like, this is their chance to like go down the runway to get ready to take flight. And the way that we describe it when we're talking with parents in a situation is, you know, when they're young, you're their commander. Everything that they do because you tell them they need to do it. And that's right. That's how it's supposed to be. But as they get into high school and as they inch towards adulthood, it's really about becoming their coach. I can give you recommendations. I can give you a playbook, but dude, you're the one on the field who gets to make the play. And when they're on the field of life making that play, we just get to support or celebrate or say, okay, that didn't work so well. Let's recircle the wagons and try again. And if you begin to get into that mindset, what happens is your kids will actually come and seek more advice from you, because a lot of the tension comes out of they're trying to become, God made them physically and mentally to begin to make their own concrete decisions. And they're bristling against your constant authority because that's who actually God designed them to be able to function as adults. So finding that balance in the middle to be able to step back and say, okay, this isn't my life. Like, this isn't my playbook to play. I'm going to make sure you don't end up running into this field and getting a concussion. But at the same time, I'm going to give you some latitude to make some decisions. That would be my biggest advice for parents going into that season.
I think that's some pretty good advice.
Yeah, it's probably some I wish I would have had a few years ago. No, we appreciate you so much, Chel. You and Kylie have such a neat marriage and partnership and ministry, and we are so grateful that you shared some advice for us. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the easiest way to do that? What's an email?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, TikTok, Be Real, all of that stuff at Chel Garrison. And then actually you can find me there. My email is actually just chelgarrison@icloud.com.
All right. Thank you so much. Debbie, did you have
Thanks for having me.
But no, the only thing I just wanted to say the same thing. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And I also want to say thank you to CDF Capital for their generous support to help make these podcasts possible. It's been good to chat with you this afternoon, ladies. I thank you so much for your time. And ladies out there watching, join us again next month when we will have another conversation and chat over a podcast. So thanks for being with us, ladies. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.